So I figured, what with it being, yeah, what with it being Halloween and all, I figured it'd be kind of fun to talk about what better writer than talk about the films made from Stephen King, that come from Stephen King, excuse me. And yes, I do have the list written down on here. As always, this isn't really a top 10 list. These are just my 10 favorite Stephen King films. And this isn't like a ranking or anything. And like I said, not a top 10. And if you think a movie should or shouldn't be on here, that's totally fine. I'm always excited to hear what you guys have to say about what are your favorites, is what I mean to say. So, stupid chair. Anyway, so without further ado, let's get started with the video. So if we're going to talk about like Stephen King movies, first and foremost, obviously one of my favorites is The Shawshank Redemption. I know that movie is like, when you talk about one of the best movies ever, that comes up a lot. That name really does come up a lot in, when you're talking about films. It's a really perfect film, even though it's very much not your typical Stephen King movie. When we think of Stephen King, we associate it with horror, but not this time. Like, it's quite literally the opposite of what we have here in this film. It's a film about heart, redemption. I mean, it's literally in the name, and yeah, it's probably Morgan Freeman's best performance, just saying. Anyway, the next movie is another prison movie, which, come to think of it, I think Stephen King made a lot of prison movies. Yeah, so what? This film is, of course, The Green Mile. Michael Clarke Duncan's best performance, and a film that does have like a supernatural element, but it's not a horror-based one. It is very clear that Duncan's character is like does have a variant of The Shine, but it's a film that has a lot more heart to it. There is like some very genuinely sweet moments, and the ending. Good God, the ending will destroy you. That's how I felt watching it. I love both Shawshank and Green Mile. I love both those movies, but they are very hard to watch because they are like an emotional, just absolute emotional beatdown. So from here on out, we're going to talk about horror movies. I thought I'd talk about those two movies first because those ones have like the heart, and they also have like, a lot of care to them. But let's be real. We all know Stephen King is more of horror than anything else. Anyway, so moving on to the first one of these horror movies I really like, Cujo. Cujo is a great movie. It's a great animal attack movie, and it's also a very it's a very tense and very simple movie. Dog gets rabies. Dog terrorizes mom and son. That's it. That's the whole plot. But there's so much more going on to it, with the underlying plots. And also, like, Cujo, you see as a sweet, you see this sweet dog just get infected with rabies, and you immediately feel bad. Like, it's how this movie even does, like, how this movie goes from making you care about the dog to being terrified of it is just a really good form of directing. This is a movie I haven't seen in a while. I should have put it on my 31 days of Halloween challenge I'm putting myself through. But anyway, moving on now to It. Now, when we talk about It, which It are we referring to? For this film, we're going to talk about all of It, because it was really hard to say which one I liked more. So we're just going to put both. For this one, I'm kind of cheating a bit for this. But this, when we talk about It, we're talking about the 1991 and the 2000 and the 2017/2019 film, a duology film. Both films, I think, are really great, even though, yes, I feel like the 90s one hasn't really... there are points where it hasn't really aged well, but Tim Curry, man, he just carries that whole film as Pennywise. And there are still some genuinely disturbing moments in that film. But, Bill Skarsgård's Pennywise is no joke either. He did a great performance, and that was like his breakout role, essentially. Now you see him everywhere. And all of the, I think obviously the first, but here's the thing. I know everyone says like, oh, It Chapter 2 was pretty weak. It was, it was a really weak movie. Yeah, that's true. I'm not going to lie. It Chapter 2 was a pretty weak film. But the thing of it is that the whole second half, the adult stuff of the book was always boring. Like, can we all agree with that? Like, the whole second half of the books were all, like, the whole second half of it was pretty boring, and all the adult stuff was just not good. At least with this, I will say that, like, It Chapter 2's ending's pretty bad. But the other hand, the 90s It had a really bizarre ending that still doesn't make any sense, even though it follows more closely to the book. So that therein lies the problem. But having said all that, both It the miniseries and It the movies, they're still pretty strong. They still have some great performances in it. Yeah. Anyway, what was I saying? Yeah. So they all have their strengths and weaknesses, and that's why I decided, and that's kind of why I decided to put both of them in here, because I was kind of thinking, well, I like this one, but I also have problems with that, but I like this one, and so yeah, I just decided, screw it, we'll do both. Anyway, next up, Christine. Christine is a favorite John Carpenter movie of mine, and I think it's one of his best work ever. This movie has some great stunt work, and I really do like the Christine itself is just a force of nature. Just that scene of Christine chasing after the guy while it's on fire is just a haunting image. I also really do like the trailer's actually kind of cool too. If you've ever seen the original like teaser trailer for Christine, there's actually like a solid jump scare in it. Like I was like, because I was watching a horror movie compilation just in the background, and then Christine came on. And I was like, oh, look at that, and then jump scared. I was like, oh shit. So it was actually when the trailer gets you, that says something. But this movie I've always watched it even at a young age. It was a horror movie I remember watching way too young. But yeah, there you go. Speaking of killer cars, Maximum Overdrive. This isn't really based off of a book. This is the movie Stephen King directed himself, and oh boy, yeah. It's everywhere. This movie's balls to the wall insane. But it's fun. Stephen King probably did. Actually, no. We know Stephen King did all the drugs for this movie, but still, it made an entertaining film. Like the film is. You can't say the movie's boring. You could say it's bizarre. It doesn't make any sense, but you can't say it's boring. Anyway. Moving on to the next one. This is a film that you can probably still find on YouTube, but I don't know where else to find it, because I haven't seen it on any other streaming site, and that is The Night Flyer. The Night Flyer is a film that, for the most part, not for the most part, it's based off a Stephen King short story that follows a tabloid journalist whose whole thing is like making really awful stories and he's just kind of a real asshole. And he's following a series of killings at small airports of a serial killer called the Night Flyer. However, he discovers that it's a vampire named Dwight Renfield, that's probably Dwight Fry, the original actor of Renfield, and obviously Renfield, because Stephen King's so clever. This movie is really underrated, and it's kind of a cult classic. Again, I think you can still find the whole movie on YouTube. I would recommend it. Even though you know the twist, it's really engaging. And again, the main actor, Miguel Ferrer, he gives a great performance as this just absolute asshole, but I would still recommend it. Next up, Silver Bullet. This movie's fun. This movie, based off of Cycle of the Werewolf. This movie is like Gary Busey's just Gary Busey, but there's a lot of like hometown charm to it. And while the werewolf, you kind of figure out who the werewolf is pretty fast, it's still an engaging movie nonetheless. If you haven't seen it yet, it's a really solid werewolf film. Then we have Dr. Sleep, a movie that made me the Mike Flanagan fan that I am. I think I just rhymed there. But this movie has got a lot of heart. Ian McGregor is fantastic as Dan Torrance. The True Knot are despicable villains, and Abra is so endearing. All this movie feels like a true. This movie, while it does kind of get a little ham-fisty with the Shining references at the end, I still think it holds up and I thought like it more than The Shining. Yeah. So there you go. And finally, Salem's Lot. Salem's Lot is my favorite Stephen King novel. And this is a solid 2-part miniseries made into a whole movie. There's so much tension and horror to it. And Kurt Barlow, even though he's a lot different from the book, he's actually way more scarier, and you feel his presence everywhere. I love this movie, even though, yes, it is like 3 hours long since it was a 2-part miniseries. I still recommend giving it a watch. So there you go, guys. Those are my 10 favorite Stephen King movies. But you guys tell me in the comments below, what are your 10 favorite Stephen King films? Just comment below, let me know. Other than that, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.